let's get this thing kicked off. So, hello and welcome. Today we're going to dive in to prompt engineering, which is a crucial skill for getting the most out of Gemini. My name is Chris Cook. I'm a technical account manager here at Sweetbriar. My role is to help our customers leverage Google Workspace to their benefit. I'm excited to show you how to maximize the value you can get from Gemini through effective use of prompts. So in an increasingly AI-driven world, right, understanding how to communicate effectively with large language models like Gemini, it's not really just an advantage anymore. It's quickly becoming a necessity. So, prompt engineering, it's, the art and the science of crafting inputs or prompts that guide AI to generate a desired output. It's about asking the right question in the right way to unlock the full potential of what these tools have to offer. So during the session, we'll cover some key principles of prompt engineering. We'll explore various techniques from defining roles for the AI to providing examples and constraints, all designed to help you achieve more accurate, relevant, and useful responses from Gemini. So whether you're looking to draft emails, summarize documents, brainstorm ideas, automate repetitive tasks, mastering prompt engineering will significantly enhance your productivity and creativity within Google Workspace. So let's dive in. So prompt engineering is about crafting effective prompts to get the desired responses from Gemini. And this matters because the quality of the prompts directly impacts the quality of the output. So let's start by engineering our first prompt of the session and ask what prompt engineering is and why it matters. So here's our prompt. In this example, we can break it down into four distinct areas. So it starts by defining a role or a persona for Gemini, right? In this case, you are an expert in AI teaching. Next, we proceed with a task or an action. Here we say, tell me what prompt engineering is and why it matters when interacting with generative AI. Then we spice it up with some additional context, use as few words as possible, and use language free of technical jargon. And then we finished it off with some output formatting instructions so that we know what we can expect from our response. So in this case, format the result as a short explanation followed by a short bulleted list of benefits for writing a good prompt. So we submit this prompt and then we get back our response. So just like we ordered, a short explanation with a few bullets. So we see that prompt engineering is like having a conversation with a very literal friend, and we see the benefits are all listed as bullets here. We have higher quality responses, greater creative control, increased efficiency, and it unlocks AI's full potential. So you might be surprised to learn that the most effective prompts average around 21 words. And this is because detail matters, right? The more context you provide, the better AI understands your needs, which leads to more accurate and more useful results. So think of it like LLMs. They process huge amounts of data, and a detailed prompt provides the necessary context to leverage all of that data effectively. So a well-crafted prompt is key to unlocking the full potential of these tools, and it'll significantly improve the quality of your responses. So the best prompts let us make the most of AI by taking us directly to the answers we're looking for. So the most successful prompts will all have the same, well, the foundation elements here, like a set of ingredients, if you will. So let's take a look. So here are the 4 key elements to the prompt. Right? We kind of got a sneak preview of them earlier, but we've got the persona, which defines a role or identity. We've got a task, which specifies an action or a goal. Context provides background information, constraints or details, and a format dictates how we want the output to be structured. So, like a good recipe, effective prompts include both ingredients and instructions, right? They work together to help LLMs generate better output. So the basic structure of a prompt, persona, and the context are like the ingredients, and the task and the format are like the instructions. So we think of the persona, right? So we describe who the model is pretending to be, what sort of things they are really great at. We assign a role or a persona to the model that we want to answer as. For instance, a day in the life of a manager in a high frequency trading company might look very different from a manager in a retail business, even though they both have manager titles. So then we have context, right? So this is to give the model a setting or some contextual information, describe the user, their age, interests, needs, what they're trying to accomplish, right? Describe the product or the service. Then we have a task. So we describe what we'd like the model to accomplish, right? The goal, what does success look like? Here we would add any additional instructions, any other asks that we have. You can even ask the model to be fun or creative. And finally, we have the format. So we specify the format in which you'd like to see the output: a table, a list, paragraph, an elevator pitch, bullets, keywords, whatever it is that you want to see, right? So there are also some optional components that, while not strictly necessary, can significantly improve the quality of Gemini's output. So these include things like providing examples, which is often called few-shot learning. Right? This can be contextual, formatting, or writing style. We can use follow-up prompts to refine the original request, a technique known as chain of prompts. And this can probe for more detail, different formatting, or maybe some more creative ideas. Additionally, you can set limits to prevent the model from generating irrelevant or inaccurate information. For example, right, do not address any content or answers that you don't have data for. And finally, we can specify the desired style or tone for the output, such as an 8th grade reading level or maybe a formal tone. So we can use these optional components to provide more guidance, leading to more precise and more useful results. So here's an example of how to structure a prompt, right, with all of these components. So as you can see here, we have in blue, we have the persona. You're a Google Cloud account executive. The task here in red, draft a door opener email is what we're doing here. Some context to a specific role based on challenges in a quarterly report for a specific customer. And then in green, we have the output, right, bullet points and limited to 250 characters. So again, you don't always have to use all of these, but just keep in mind, the more of this structure you follow, the better your results are going to be. So for better results here, it's better to write instructions instead of asking questions. For image generation, consider including the subject, the setting, the distance to the subject, materials, or even a background. So I got an example here that we can do. So let's generate an an image here. So I'm going to just open up a new slide presentation. And I'm going to have Gemini generate me an image. And I can use a prompt that is very thorough. So I'm going to create an image of a vintage red convertible seen from behind and above as it navigates a winding coastal road. Inside, a man and a woman are driving into the sunset. The scene is nostalgic, ocean waves crashing, rugged cliffs. I'm going to set it as a wide style, and I'm just going to click create and see what kind of image I can generate from a prompt that has that amount of detail in it. So if I wait a few seconds here, I can get some images presented to me that I can cycle through. I've got 4 here. I can select one, and then now I've got an image for my presentation ready to go, or to be used kind of anywhere that I would need an image. But again, right, the prompt helps generate the better images here. Right, you can also refine and give feedback to the results. So we have a document here, so let's create a new document. And in here, we have options to help me write. I can click help me write, and then I have a prompt here. So act as a senior marketing director and draft a 3-part email campaign for a new productivity software called SyncFlow, aimed at small businesses. Here's the goal, is to drive some free trial signups, highlighting task and automation and team collaboration, presented as a bulleted list with clear subject and body lines. So I'm going to go ahead and click create here and let this generate some text. And I can now review this. I have the option to give feedback through the feedback buttons here. I can also come up and refine my, refine this and then recreate the prompt. I can also refine it through this option here. I can make it shorter or longer, formal or more casual. But I can go ahead and just insert that in, and now I have this document, based on that prompt. All right, so let's move along here. All right, so let's work through another example prompt. So in this case, so this is Charlie, and he loves puzzle games. He's got a brand new Pixel phone, and he's excited to download a game from the Google Play Store. And he doesn't really know all the steps, but he's going to ask Gemini to guide him through his process. So he types in his prompt: how do I download a game to my phone? Only 9 words. But he was unable to follow the instructions because they're way too technical, didn't really apply to his current situation. So Charlie comes in and he asks us for some help because he knows that we're quickly becoming prompt engineering gurus. So we're going to reflect a minute. We're going to come up with a much better prompt. So here, create a table that outlines the steps for a young person downloading a new puzzle game from the Google Play Store for their Pixel phone. Right, 25 words, much better prompt, and right, we can see the difference here. We have an action. We have much more context. We have output format, which is a table, which is a great way of presenting all of those steps to follow, right? So a more specific prompt will get a more specific and more useful response. So there's a prompting guide that's available. It's quite detailed, and it covers a lot of use cases. You'll get a link to this in the follow-up email, or in this yeah, you'll get a link to this in the follow-up. So there's guaranteed to be something in this guide for everyone. So this effectively, the session that we're in now is basically just kind of an introduction to this larger handbook of effective prompts. So let's explore it for just a minute here. So we open it up, we can see that it's a 68-page document, so it's pretty intense. But if we scroll down here right away, writing effective prompts, we can see, hey, here's our 4 main areas we're all familiar with: persona, task, context, format. Here's an example of writing a prompt, right? We've seen this. So if we go down to the table of contents, here we can see that it's really just different groups: customer service, departments in your org, frontline management, human resources, marketing, sales, startup leaders, anyone who would be interested in prompts. So if we, just to kind of look at some of what this is about, it's really just prompts, examples, and use cases for these roles. So in administrative support, I have a use case here to plan an agenda, offsite meeting. So I'm trying to plan a 3-day offsite meeting, and I'm going to need to build an agenda, and I need to brainstorm. So here's my prompt. I'm an executive administrator to a team director. The team consists of marketers, and they're gathering for a 3-day offsite in Washington, and they need activities and an agenda. And so you can see that this prompt covers all of the components here. And Gemini gives us back a response here. This is helpful, but you need a little more ideas for bonding activities. It's very specific. Another prompt to suggest some different icebreaker activities. It comes back with the superhero profile activity, which is great. So you're happy with the agenda, and now you want to reformat it. So you say organize it into a table and include a suggested icebreaker for each day. And then you get back this great table formatted agenda that you can now export to docs, and then use documents within your organization, such as your 2024 H2 team vision document, to generate a summary for the agenda, so on and so forth, right? So great use cases here to kind of walk through. Guaranteed you'll find a use case for you that you can to review. Great place to come and find some really good examples of how to use prompts effectively, how to write them, get some good ideas just from this document alone. So if you do nothing else, take a look at this document. Okay, so let's talk about some shortcuts to get some prompting. So one of the shortcuts is to just use Gemini to turn this into a power prompt. So, and then you just type in whatever your starter prompt is, and Gemini will just rewrite your prompt into something that's a whole lot more robust. Then you can just copy and paste it right back into the prompt bar and get a much better response. So here, this example, right? Turn this into a power prompt. Help me write a congratulation note to my team for their wonderful effort. And you can see Gemini came back with 4 example prompts. Pick the one that is best for you, formal and heartfelt, and then go ahead and run that prompt, and then you'll have a nice congratulatory note for your team. Okay, another way to shortcut a great prompt is to create a gem. So let's take the prompt engineering details that we've learned here today and use them in gem instructions and then we can, up level our prompting game that way. So if I come over, I'm going to open a new tab, and I'm going to open up just the Gemini app, which is gemini.google.com. And if I go in here to explore the gems, I can see that there are some gems that are already made that I can review here. So if I'm interested in how these prompts work, I can just make a copy of one of these gems, and then here I can review what its prompt is, right? So these are some very big prompts that I can review. And oops. But when I'm ready, I can create a new gem, right? So for instance, a prompt engineering gem that we want to create. And then I would have to give it a set of instructions here. And this is based on what we've learned today. You're an AI expert. Your job is to help write prompts, assign a role, define the goal, specify an audience here, format the result, set restrictions on the tone and the style. You're going to get a very basic prompt to start with and rewrite it. Here's an example of what the updated prompt would look like. And then I can, before I save this, I can kind of practice, see what the output would look like before I can commit to this. And I may need to make some adjustments. So I can come over to this little preview section, and I can say, create a process map for identifying and resolving blockers. Let it run this, and then here is the output. So I've got a really nice prompt that I can now use. Right? I can ask for things. I can edit this and say, give me a workout plan, and let it give me, right? I'm a certified personal trainer with expertise, provide a 4-week full body workout. So this is a much better prompt than just give me a workout plan. So when I'm happy with my gem here, I can click save, and now I'll have a gem that's available here. So I've got my own gem, and I can start having conversations directly with it. And I can put in my starter prompt, and it'll give me back a much better prompt to work with. So again, a nice shortcut for not having to kind of write the prompts. Okay, so let's talk about some where you can put your prompt engineering skills to work in real life. So we'll start with the Gemini Sidebar, which is probably the closest thing to you when you're using Google Workspace applications every day, right? The sidebar uses the context of the application that you're working in. So you can ask Gemini to do things like create slide notes for all the slides in the presentation you're working in, for example. And so the next closest place to engineer some prompts, probably Gemini itself in a gem, right, which I just demonstrated. So I won't demo another example of that today. Besides, we've got an entire session dedicated to Gemini and gems coming up in a couple of weeks. So make sure you catch that if you can. So if you wanted more control over things like managing, your chat conversations and choosing or comparing models, then we use a site like AI Studio to exercise our prompt engineering muscles with a bit more weight. Similar to Gemini, but with more control and great for doing quick prototyping or even building and deploying custom applications right from your browser, just with a simple prompt. It's a great playground for those who want to learn more about using AI and kind of integrate it into part of your daily workflow. And for those that are ready to kind of take it to the next level and do some real AI development type work, you can do your prompting in the Vertex AI platform, where you can really put your prompt engineering skills to work, building tools, agents full-on applications, right? These that all can increase productivity and save a ton of time. And finally, when you're ready to leave the reservation and kind of get really advanced with your prompts, you can use an AI workflow automation platform such as NADN, for example, to build some really powerful workflows. And we'll explore some of those here in a bit. So I'm going to start with doing a little demo of the sidebar here. So in our document that we had, can open the sidebar, right? I just click the Ask Gemini sidebar. And so let's ask Gemini to kind of reformat this document with a more formal style suitable for a professional type of report that we would give to senior management. So I've got this prompt here, right? Reformat the document with a formal styles suited for senior management, right? There's some other context here about avoiding contractions and colloquialisms and how to use pronouns and headings and subheadings and so on and so forth. But if I just let that go, let that run, I can now insert this much better formatted document here. And now I've used my sidebar as a great place, right, to kind of engineer that prompt to make this a better document. So this is the sidebar is available in all of your applications, and you can use it in a very similar manner. Okay, so let's hop over to AI Studio. So AI Studio here, aistudio.google.com. This is a site where you can come and do some prompting. It's a little more advanced than just using Gemini. You can do things like put in system instructions separately from your prompt. You can share these with other team members, so you can collaborate on prompts. You can save them. You can even delete them, which is something you can't do in Gemini. You also have the ability to work with different models here, so you can compare your prompt against how different models, and you have some advanced features as well. One of the things you can do is come over to the prompt gallery to explore some prompts that are already available for you to work with or to explore to see just how they work. So here I've got, here's an example, order coffee from a virtual barista. So this just lays out this large prompt here, but you see it starts off with, your coffee order taking system. You're restricted to talk only about drinks on the menu. Do not talk about anything that's not on the menu. Here's kind of the goal. Down here, I see that there's a menu of things, how the response should be formatted, so on and so forth, right? It gets pretty intense. But ultimately, it gets down to the real conversation where somebody is just saying, I just want to order this. What's great about working with AI Studio is I can edit this, and I can take most of this out and just put it into the system instructions and get it out of the way, so that I can focus on just being the customer here and say, I'd like to order a latte and a cappuccino, and I can run this prompt. And what I'll get back is the response, right? So, all right, so this is, so if we're building an application here, this is what would go back to the user. I've added the latte and the cappuccino. My current order here consists of, this would be like my shopping cart, right? I've got a latte and a cappuccino in here. If I wanted to, I can delete all this out and maybe just edit this and say I want an Irish coffee instead, and run that. Let that come back. Now you can see, right, Irish coffee is not on the menu. It figured that out. It says we don't have that. Is there something else I can give you? My current order has changed, right? So this is, right, could be a prototype of a chat application, right? And it's a good place to work through all the various prompt iterations, explore responses from different models, right? I can use the Flash, I can use the Pro. I've got some preview models here. I can go back in time and really kind of get a sense for how to iterate through, find the best prompts, get the best responses. And then what I would do then is take it to the next place, which is going to be the Google Cloud Console. And in here, I have the Vertex AI platform. And within Vertex, you can see this is very similar to AI Studio, where I have a place for my system instructions here. I have the ability to pick my different models here, and I've got advanced options and such for tuning. I also have a prompt gallery, but I have this feature here called Help Me Write. So if I don't have a prompt, much like the gem we made, this is kind of one that's built in. So I can do things like, here's a prompt to do something like write a thank you note to my teacher. And this will generate a much better prompt, right? It's given me some system instructions, and then it's given me a much more detailed prompt. I can click insert here, and it will insert the system instructions where the system instructions go. And you can see it's left me some placeholders where I can enter in these variables. Sometimes it takes a second to get them in there. Oh, here we go. So I can come in here and I can give a teacher a name, I can give the subject taught, so on and so forth, and then it will replace those variables. And now I've got a really good starting prompt to work with. Right, so it's a good way, right? Good way to kind of build out the instructions that I would need maybe for a gem, right? So I would come here, build this out, then paste this into my gem instructions, and now I've got my gem. Okay, so there is also here a prompt gallery that we can explore, much like we explored in AI Studio, except this one's a little more robust. We can search for things. We can filter it down on a variety of features. We look at just looking at some text, look at an advertising campaign, for example. Here is the system instructions for this advertising campaign, right? You're an expert advertising creative director. Here are the general rules. Here are the content approaches. Here's the social media guidelines. Here's the mascot marketing, right? So these are all the rules behind how you advertise campaigns in your organization. Here's your new client, Buzz Juice. Here's their brand information. So we can run this, and we should get back a nice campaign for this client. And with this great prompt and this data from the client, we can now get a great campaign. And here it comes. So there you go. So you have this campaign that you can start working with, all based on that that initial prompt in the system instructions. You also have a mascot of Dr. Buzz here and what that person would look like. And if you wanted to, something I would do is go over to AI Studio and I would pick an image generation model and I would paste in Dr. Buzz here and see what Dr. Buzz looks like. Well, there he is. So again, just using what AI generated to generate more AI things. Okay, so again, right, prompt gallery, more things to explore. You can come in here and explore a variety of prompts, find something. Here's this one is sentiment analysis, and you see that it's just very small system instructions, print the category name, and this one is really just about examples. So I've got some examples of a review, and it's either going to be negative or positive, right? So in this particular prompt, I would paste in a review and I would get back a negative or positive as a response to this particular one. Okay, so prompting skills become really important when you're building things like workflow automations with AI. So if we use a tool, this one is a tool called NADN, right? This is a popular AI workflow building tool. And allows you to build some pretty slick workflows. If you've never used NADN, right, know that it's an open source tool. It has enterprise features, so you can pay for it and license some of the features, but it's like Red Hat, right? You can use it for free, you can host it yourself. You can see I've got it running here locally on a local host. And you can build, it's a little more advanced, but when you're getting advanced with your prompting, you can do things like build workflows that incorporate AI. So in this case, this is a prompt generator workflow. So you fill out a form, and the form would submit that into this AI. And here you can see the prompt that is built here. Right, it starts with a role, right? You're an expert prompt refinement agent. Your goal is to analyze a vague or semi-structured input from a user who wants to build, right, an AI-based tool. Your task is to generate 3 questions, right? Here's the input that's going to come from the form. Here's your instructions. Here's your constraints. Again, here's the output, right? It needs to specifically look like this, so that the next bit, the split questions and then ask those questions back to the user can still work, right? So this is how you would do it. You can add these type of AI nodes, but you can come and look and explore the templates right from their website. So you can come in here, click on AI, and then if you've got any specific apps that you're looking to automate, maybe you want to do something with LinkedIn. Right, so there's ways to do, right, here's one where you can generate LinkedIn posts automatically with an image. So you can come in here and you can just explore what these agents do and look at how the prompts work, right? So these prompts are pretty intense, and this is where you would come and figure out, how do they do these things? How is it done? How can I mimic what that thing did? This is where you would come and you would explore how these prompts are built. And you can poke around this site all you want and find things that make sense to you and explore how they work, and then copy and paste and use them in your projects and to make your gems better, and your day-to-day workflows better. So that was the demonstrations of that, and we're going to move on to Q&A. So that's all I had for demos today. So I'll be happy to answer any questions if there are any. Thank you. And if not, that's fine. You will get a follow-up email, which will include the links for the prompting guide and some other additional resources that you can explore and enjoy prompting. I think, Jake, you're on mute if you're talking.
Hey, sorry. We do have a few questions from the YouTube feed if you want to answer those.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can, yeah. What's the question?
If Gemini's initial response isn't quite right, how can I refine my prompt to guide it towards a better outcome? Are there techniques for iterative prompting?
So again, using the techniques that we talked about today, using the persona, the task, the content, the formatting, using the help me write features in something like Vertex, or even building your own gem that can help you iterate and get that better prompt as well.
Okay, and the one other we had was how can we measure the effectiveness of different prompts?
So, evaluating prompts it's really based a lot on human judgment and what you're expecting, right? You kind of know what good looks like when you're building this. There are some measurements, some tools that can help you with some testing where you can kind of define what you're looking for, and then take your responses and then pass them to AI essentially to see if AI finds a better response. But ultimately, it's going to come down to what provides you the best output with the least amount of effort or the least amount of tokens to get that. Using a tool like AI Studio, for example, has a compare feature. So I could go into compare mode here and I could run this, run a single prompt against different models and then see in real time, side by side, how how they compare. So that's a great place to kind of work.
Great, thanks.
Sure.
This is Jesse Watson. I have a question.
Sure.
This might have been more appropriate for the last meeting, but we couldn't answer or ask questions at that time. But I'm just curious about, is there a reference from Google on just the sort of best average use cases among the variety of different sort of, I guess, applications in which we can access Gemini tools? Because it's a little bit, I think, confusing as we look to deploy this across our staff to sort of say, hey, okay, you can access Gemini embedded into the apps, you can access Gemini the app, you can access Notebook LM, you can access AI Studio. There's overlap among some of those, and in some cases they're not. Is there anything that provides guidance on you know, the sort of average user that should be using those particular versions or types of Gemini and what they're best for?
So there may be some guidance out there. I'm not aware of like specifically anything from Google, but there are, as you said, right, there's a lot of different places where you can find a place to put a prompt, and in each one, you know, the sidebar has its advantages because it has the context of the application, it has the context of your slide or your document or your spreadsheet that you're working with directly, without having to add it. Right? You could get a similar experience by going out to Gemini, including the document in then your question, right? So it really is going to depend on what your use case is, what you're trying to accomplish, and then matching that to the best tool for the job. I find that I will use the sidebar for certain kind of disposable tasks. If I need to quickly generate something, you know, additional text for a document I'm working on, if I just need some notes for a slide, things that I'm not going to have to go back to, I'll do it that way. If I am trying to do troubleshooting, I will use AI Studio, where I have more control over how the model responds. And I can also edit my conversation or delete parts of my conversation, or share that conversation with another individual. With Gemini, it's kind of a one and done. You go there, you ask what you want, you can have an iterative conversation. You can't really edit the conversation or delete it. It's sort of there, always, forever in your history. Different way to use it, but it also gets you access to maybe some of the features that aren't available in other places. So it's really about, first of all, it's understanding what the tools are. What does the landscape look like, and what can you do with each of the tools? Knowing what Notebook LM is good for and what it's not is important to understanding whether that is a tool that you want to use on a regular basis. So it starts with understanding. Coming to these sessions are a great place. We also offer just direct training and overviews of Gemini to help you understand exactly what you're asking. You know, what are the different tools, and how do I use different tools for different tasks?
Got it. Thanks. I mean, that's kind of been the approach. I guess what I can also do is, I guess, continue to use those different versions of Gemini to ask what it says, or ask of it that same question, I guess, and see what it comes back.
Yeah, it's really great. You can use AI to use AI when you don't know. A great thing, like when you bring up a spreadsheet, is to ask, what kind of questions can I ask of this data? And it'll give you 10 or 15 questions you may not even thought of asking. So use it to help use it. You know, leverage AI to leverage AI, I guess. All right. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for attending the session. Hopefully you learned something and are excited to start putting your new prompting skills to work. And with that, I'll say thank you again and goodbye.